destination, the stunning Knik Glacier.
It's probably some of the most magnificent scenery that I can relate to, and I've seen a lot of country in my life.
Time's up, Gary.
Eager to land the plane while it's still daylight, Dave turns for home.
And as we headed back towards the airport,
Hey, Dave, look over there.
I remember glancing over to my right shoulder and seeing this mouth of this valley just opening up to our right there.
Let's go check it out.
Dave has never noticed this valley before.
Hey, come on, there might not be no next time. Okay.
Intrigued, he descends to take a closer look. But what Dave doesn't know is that this is a notorious spot where over a dozen planes have crashed before.
I had a lot of trust in the airplane and a lot of trust in my ability. Just wanted to kind of get a feel for the environment.
15 minutes later, Dave starts his climb out.
The valley was back behind us. I remember Dave just giving it full throttle.
We don't seem to be going up.
I did a quick instrument scan and noticed that I was going down at 200 feet a minute. I thought, something's not right. I immediately knew we were in a downdraft.
The aircraft is caught in a column of rapidly descending cold air. Its 145 horsepower engine can't generate enough lift to overcome the powerful downward force. The plane is now plummeting towards the ground at over 10 meters per second.
I needed to keep my wings level and get my airspeed as low as possible because we were going to impact. I had no choice but to accept that.
I'll never forget him looking at me and saying, "We're gonna crash." The impact was tremendous.
Just loud, and I thought, oh no, what have I done?
Just feel the plane skidding and sliding.
And then a big noise, and then the lights went out.
After skidding for 30 meters, the plane has come to rest. Over 1,200 meters up a remote mountainside.
One of my first thoughts was, here I am covered in blood. I had a hard time focusing my eyes.
Miraculously, both men have survived the crash. But Dave appears to be unconscious.
I look around and I see Dave laid back in his seat and his eyes are just rolled up in his head.
Dave.
I'm thinking, man, this is not good.
Dave. You hear me?
I immediately start yelling at him and trying to get his attention.
Dave, talk to me, man.
He was incoherent.
But their injuries are not the only problem.
Dave, we gotta get out.
Gasoline was just pouring out.
The force of the impact has ruptured the plane's fuel tanks.
Get the door.
The wreck could catch fire and explode at any moment.
Come on, man.
Gary must get his injured friend to safety.
Go! Go!
I'm pulling and tugging on him and trying to get him out of the plane.
Come on!
He's not responding.
Wake up!
I didn't have time to think, oh, are we gonna die or whatever.
Come on, man.
I just knew we gotta get away from the plane.
Come on!
Just kept yelling at him, come on, Dave, we gotta move, we gotta get out of here.
Gary finally manages to drag Dave clear of the wreckage and out of danger.
And the next thing I knew, I'm staring at the tundra. I recall thinking that we're two very lucky people to be alive.
Against all odds, Dave and Gary have survived the crash, but both have sustained multiple injuries.
I remember having a lot of pain up in my right chest and shoulder area. And then I looked up at Gary, and he had a pretty good gash in his forehead.
He don't look good. I'm okay.
Gary doesn't know it, but he has a serious skull fracture. Dave has broken 2 ribs and fractured his collarbone.
We needed to get some help quick, but nobody knew where we were at.
Here, above 1,000 meters, nighttime temperatures can drop below freezing. And as the sun begins to set, both men start to feel bitterly cold.
We're looking for ways to stay warm. So we made some makeshift ponchos.
Yeah.
Dave was really struggling. We decided to stop for the night.
Concerned that pushing Dave on could exacerbate his injuries, Gary decides to make camp for the night.
We laid one of the big tarps out and then pulled the second tarp up over us.
Dave and Gary desperately need rest, but they know that many of Alaska's fiercest animals come out to hunt at night.
Wanted to really be just on alert, listening for bears.
Weak, unarmed, and covered in blood, the men would be an easy meal for determined predators.
Gary had a bear encounter earlier that year where he actually had to shoot the bear. If he's gonna come get you, he's gonna come get you, and you're defenseless.
Fearing for their lives, both men's thoughts turn to their families.
We love our wives and we love our kids, and that's where we wanted to be.
I could only imagine at that point they must have thought we were probably dead. We were so compelled to get off that mountain for that reason, just to let them know that we were all right.
Gary and I were going home, or we were gonna die trying.
As soon as there was enough light, I determined that we needed to get moving.
Come on, get up. We gotta get home.
Pretty soon I hear this, hey Dave, we gotta go.
We gotta get out of here.
Oh, give me a break.
You're hurting and you're tired. I laid there for what seemed to me like 3 seconds.
Look, if I can keep moving in this, you can too.
He was getting really just rigid from his injuries. I had to convince Dave several times that we needed to get up and go.
Get up!
Dave's injured body craves rest, but Gary knows that if they're to make it out alive, they must get moving.
I was thinking that the best thing to do was to get up and start moving, get the blood circulating, get some warmth going, help perhaps boost the morale, just have a plan, put something into action.
Dave and Gary hoped that the Knik River will lead them back to civilization. But to reach it, they will have to navigate their way across 40 kilometers of treacherous terrain.
My concern really started growing there because you just don't know what's down in the alder brush.
We had enough blood about us that I would have rather been a moving target to a bear than a sitting target to a bear.
And then I spotted something moving off to our right, and I just froze. There was this huge grizzly.
We were literally just feet away from it.
Dave and Gary are now face to face with a 300-kilo grizzly bear. It's their worst nightmare.
You don't stand a chance against an animal like that. Largest predator in North America.
They're upwind of the grizzly, so it hasn't smelt them. Yet. But should the wind change, the scent of blood will surely attract this fearsome predator. The two friends are in grave danger.
The bear was just prowling back and forth.
And then it turned back towards us. We are obviously in his territory and his domain. I thought to myself, hold still. I remember Gary saying, Lord, help the bear to turn the other way. That's exactly what the bear did.
We were so relieved when that happened. It was like we could breathe again, you know.
We both looked at each other and said, this is not where we need to be right now.
As quiet as possible. We sort of cut back at a 45-degree angle. We wanted to just put some distance between us and that bear.
I remember looking back a few times, wondering if there was anything following us. And then we noticed a large area that had been stomped around.
Oh, no. It's fresh, isn't it?
We were standing just feet away from this moose kill.
When a grizzly kills a moose, it'll take it and bury it, and let it rot a little bit. Seeing that moose's head and legs and stuff sticking out of the ground, that was not a good feeling right there at that point.
Dave and Gary have accidentally stumbled into the heart of the grizzly's lair.
And I'm thinking, oh, great, you know, the bear's right down the stream from us. We're in its kitchen here, and he or she would have been probably pretty aggressive if he thought we were invading on his kill.
Brown bears are notoriously territorial, and the men know this one could return at any moment.
There was no pepper spray, there was no shotgun, there was nothing between us and them, and absolutely no protection whatsoever.
I'm thinking this bear's gonna come busting out of the woods any minute now.
Between a bear and its kill was not the place to be. And that's when we started moving off.
Reeking of blood, Dave and Gary are desperate to avoid another bear encounter.
Bears are unpredictable. You never know what it is that's going to provoke them to attack you. We were definitely in a position to have that happen at any moment.
One of the items we had was a bear whistle. And we would just blow on that pretty much all the time. You don't want to surprise a bear. That's the worst thing you can do. Your senses are really on high alert.
The men stumble onto the bank of a 10-meter wide river. If they can reach the other side, they should be out of the bear's territory. Dave is the first to try and wade across.
As he starts to enter the creek, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm looking for that big old grizzly bear.
The water was ice cold. Of course, the whole balancing act with the pack and the pain and everything was challenging. And then lost my footing and got pulled downstream.
I turn around and look, and Dave's gone. I look downstream, and there's Dave. He washed downstream about 20, 25 yards or so.
In the fast-flowing torrent, Dave's broken collarbone and ribs make trying to swim agony. Soon he's freezing cold and struggling just to keep his head above water.
Hang on, I'm coming!
Dave manages to drag himself to shallow water. But on a day when the temperature is barely 4 degrees Celsius, his body temperature is plummeting.
I'm thinking, great, this is not good, you know. Now he's gonna get hypothermia.
Come on, let's get you dried off.
No.
Gary said, you know, you need to wring out all your clothes.
We gotta get out of here.
Dave decides that getting dry isn't their biggest concern.
We're still within proximity of where we had just seen this bear, and I said, no, we'll just trek hard, and I'll just try to body heat it out. All of a sudden, my feet slipped out from underneath me, and I started sliding down the hill.
Unable to stop himself, Dave is hurtling towards the edge of a 15-meter precipice.
We're picking up speed. As the branches are going by, I'm reaching out with my arm. I look down, and there's nothing underneath me. I stopped solid. And then I went to put my feet underneath me, and there wasn't anything there. I looked down, and it was another drop on down to the bottom.
Hang on, buddy, I'm coming!
Finally, I pulled myself up until I could get my feet underneath me. Had I have gone off of that, I may not be sitting here.
I realized that was probably the worst mistake of the whole journey.
Dave and Gary's shortcut has badly backfired.
Let's go.
Exhausted from their exertions and the pain of their injuries, they now have to climb nearly 150 meters back up a 45-degree slope.
That was a pretty demoralizing point. Right there was just trying to get back all the way up to where we started from.
It was pretty steep.
Dave is in a bad way. The fall aggravated his broken ribs, and now every breath is agony.
I was just grasping for air. There was a concern there about what it was that was going to happen next with your body, because you could feel things weren't working as they should be.
The grueling climb saps what little strength Dave has left. And now Gary's in trouble too.
I don't feel good.
I'm thinking something weird is going on here.
Come on, Gary, we gotta keep going.
Man, this is really strange. But I knew we had to keep on going.
What you doing? It's this way. It's this way.
And he's going, why are we going south?
I promise you. It's this way.
I've normally got a great sense of direction, but I'm thinking the injuries to my forehead were beginning to take a toll.
Gary's growing confusion is a worrying symptom of his fractured skull and severe concussion. Up to this point, he's taken the lead. But now, he realizes that it's his turn to rely on Dave.
At this point, I decided to follow Dave's lead. I mean, he seemed to be thinking clearly.
Gary needs urgent medical attention. The search efforts continue. But as the friends' unplanned detour took them way off the usual flight path, the search doesn't extend to where they're stranded. "24 hours after the crash, Dave and Gary still haven't reached the Knik River, their route back to civilization.
I gotta rest.
Then, Gary catches sight of something through the trees.
And then I can remember seeing what I thought was a hunter. I thought, man, that's odd. It's not even hunting season.
Dave! Look! Gary, what is it? I thought I saw a hunter. Gary, there's nothing there.
At this point, I'm starting to understand that Gary's operating in some sort of a reduced mental capacity.
Gary's erratic behavior is worrying Dave. For the first time, he realizes that his friend's head injury could be life-threatening.
Watching Gary go through that, it increased my feelings of guilt for having caused the accident in the first place. It gave me a drive to want to do everything I could to make sure that we could get to some help quick.
The friends' hike to safety just became a race against the clock.
But then I heard the sound of an aircraft.
Look!
It was headed right up towards us.
It's a de Havilland Beaver. It's red. I know the people who even operate the airplane. It's that close, I can see it.
Quick! Quick, flare!
The plane is flying upriver towards the Knik Glacier. Gary and Dave scramble for the emergency flare they retrieved from their aircraft.
The timing just perfect. He was coming right at us, and I shot the flare off right in front of the plane.
I'm thinking, it just doesn't get any better than that.
The flares started to illuminate. When it got to its crest, the plane banked away 180 degrees away from us. He never so much as saw it.
It was disheartening to me to see the plane fly off. There has to be the golden moment for a rescue, and it wasn't our golden moment.
It's a crushing blow. Gary's survival chances just took a major hit. The men stumble on, but now even the terrain seems to conspire against them.
It is just nothing but tangled sticks and brush. We literally couldn't see much more than about 50 feet. It's thick. It's really thick.
Gary, come on.
I could really just feel a sinking feeling coming on me. It would take 10 times the effort to just go 5 feet.
And now, Gary has completely lost his grip on reality.
I would see camps, campfires, tents. They would just vaporize. They would just vanish. There was nothing there.
As the light fades, Dave starts to feel desperate.
Come on, keep coming.
He's convinced that Gary won't survive another night out here.
Come on, Gary, get up. Keep coming, keep coming.
Watching Gary not move as fast, being quieter, that was a real sinking feeling. Quietly, I talked to God and prayed for our survival. And then I hear car engines. And I think, no, that's not car engines. Then I hear it again. And then I hear a big roar.
And then I see lights shining through the trees.
Look. Hey! Hey!
By some miracle, Gary and Dave have stumbled onto a logging road and a car full of holidaymakers.
They come running up to us there, and it was just the most awesome thing. I was very blessed to be alive.
After 33 hours alone in the wilderness, Dave and Gary are finally rescued.
We were going home. It's remarkable that we survived the crash. It's remarkable that we were in physical condition to be able to walk out. And it's remarkable that we did not have a physical encounter with a bear.
The men were rushed to hospital in Palmer, where doctors treated Gary's head injury. He was lucky not to need surgery. but it took him nearly 6 months to get over the effects of his fractured skull. An air search took 2 weeks to locate Dave's crashed plane. Despite his terrifying ordeal, Dave was back at the controls within 2 months.
I'll continue to fly. I'll continue to love aviation very much. I don't see my life without it.
In fact, Dave is renovating another aircraft to replace the one he lost on the mountain.
I'm fortunate to be able to go on as a pilot, and I'll encourage others, including Gary. I hope that he continues on to get his pilot's license.
The experience has made Dave and Gary's bond of friendship even stronger.
Me and Dave have grown really close. You don't go through an experience like that, somebody and survive and not come out of it a lot closer.
Could I have done this alone? I don't think so. I think that if it wasn't for Gary being there, that I wouldn't be here.
At a small airport in New Mexico, Tommy Robbins has planned a surprise for his brother-in-law.
I figured it would be very nice to rent an airplane and tour the area from the air. I was really looking forward to the flight.
Hey, Justin. Hey, here you are, buddy.
Today, Tommy's good friend, Justin Kirkbride, will be piloting the plane.
This is our girl.
Looking good.
Yeah. Tommy asked me if I would take him up, and I said, sure, no problem.
Looking good.
You guys all set? You bet. Let's go flying.
Both Justin and Tommy are qualified pilots, with experience of flying over the Colorado Rockies.
We were gonna go up and basically do my standard sightseeing flight, and our expectation was to go up and be back for lunch and then head home.
Out in open country, the friends find flying is the perfect way to watch the local wildlife.
Larry was looking here, looking there, pointing. He was like a kid in a candy store.
It was gorgeous, and all positives and nothing but fun and Yahoo, yay.
An hour into the flight, the friends decide to head higher into the mountains. In front of them is a vast ridge of snow-capped peaks. Justin's pilot training kicks in. He knows he has to stay calm.
At that point, it became about slowing the aircraft down to minimize the impact as much as possible.
Your adrenaline goes off like crazy.
All of a sudden, you're about to die.
Time slows down.
We hit the trees.
Big, horrible banging noises.
Miraculously, Justin is completely unscathed. But the three friends are far from out of trouble.
The first thing that I remember seeing was the fuel. It was just like, oh my God, that's fuel. That scared me.
One spark could turn the wreck into a giant fireball.
Larry! We gotta get out now, Larry! Fuel's everywhere, we gotta go!
I told Larry, you have to get out of the aircraft right now. And he told me that his leg hurt. I explained to him he has to get out now if he doesn't want to burn to death.
Finally got it together. I managed to go backward out of the plane.
The plane could blow at any second. But Tommy is unconscious. He's taken a serious blow to the head.
Wake up. Tommy, wake up, man. We gotta get out of here. Tommy! We got fuel everywhere. Wake up, wake up!
I yelled at him and he didn't respond.
Tommy! Please.
I was very concerned that I'd killed one of my best friends.
Tommy, come on!
Justin has to haul Tommy's 220-pound dead weight out of the plane.
The first thing I remember is a horrible pain in my side, and I believe that is when Justin broke my ribs.
The three friends have to get away from the fuel-soaked wreck. But Larry can't walk.
As soon as I put any weight on the leg, I just fell over, I immediately fell over and screamed.
Larry, get up. Come on, stand up. Stand up. Attaboy, come on. Go.
When I got him to his feet, the pain in my side was excruciating. But I felt it was more important to get away from the gasoline than it was to worry about the pain.
The three men somehow managed to get far enough away and out of danger.
I looked at the plane. It was, wow, we could have all died. I thought, we're pretty lucky to walk out of that one.
So we're in this situation. What do you do to make it better? I needed to do something. I was thinking about going back to the aircraft to make a radio call.
Now pilot Justin Kirkbride has to risk turning on the electrics if he's going to transmit an SOS call and save his two severely injured friends.
For me, my thought process was that I was probably going to burn to death. But I just decided that it was worth the risk. I truly believed that as soon as I turned the batteries on, that it was game over. I took a deep breath and nothing happened.
Mayday.
So I made my call.
November 3535 Echo. Cessna 172 due north of Durango in a canyon unknown.
But there's no response to his mayday call.
You know, I had no way of knowing if there was any signal that got out at all. And realistically, nobody knows where we are. My initial thought was that I need to get help here.
They're in the middle of a mountain wilderness. And there's no guarantee the rescue services even know they've crashed. Larry is completely immobile, and Tommy's massive hit to the head could develop into serious brain damage if he's not treated soon.
I just put in a mayday call. I don't know if it got out.
I definitely felt like I'd let them down.
I'm so sorry. It's all my fault.
I needed to do something to get them the help that they needed.
Look. It was an accident. It wasn't your fault.
He felt really badly about it. So he was going to do everything he could to get us off that mountain as quickly as possible.
Justin believes the only way of getting help is by hiking out into the icy wilderness, unprepared and totally alone. He knows he's risking frostbite and even hypothermia, but he can't stay here and watch his buddies slowly die.
Are you sure you're okay?
I'm fine. I think I can get help.
Justin remembers flying over the town of Durango 10 minutes before they crashed.
I can get to Durango.
I knew that it probably wasn't more than maybe 15 miles.
Look, you're gonna have to talk to Larry. Say something. Reassure him. All right?
Yeah, okay. Larry. Larry. Have you ever been in a helicopter? No. I'm gonna get you one, okay? Soon.
Justin faces an added challenge. He has to get there by nightfall. Temperatures in the Colorado Rockies can plummet to minus 30 degrees as darkness falls. All three men are only lightly dressed and could freeze to death by morning.
Dark to me was a definitive end, so I was more worried about getting help before dark than anything else.
Miles away, Justin Kirkbride is trying to use his mobile phone to alert the rescue services. But he just can't get a strong enough signal.
I ran up the hill, and then I called again.
Rich! Hey, it's Justin Kirkbride. Listen, don't say a thing.
And this time they could hear me.
We went out. We had a crash. I put out a mayday call. I don't know if anyone's heard me. Oh.
Justin is told that an air patrol is already looking for them. The alarm was raised after they failed to return to the airfield.
Good. Okay. Don't go. Stay with me, all right?
Using his phone, Justin is able to guide them to his position.
There wasn't a lot of time to think about, yippee! It was more,
here!
Let's go find Tommy and Larry. Because now we have the ability to find them and get them out of here tonight.
Tommy and Larry are unaware any kind of rescue operation has begun. As darkness falls, the temperature drops below freezing. They're over 9,000 feet up the side of a mountain, with leg and possible brain injuries. Justin has been picked up by the rescue services, as the freezing temperatures could kill the injured men before morning. A specialist Air Force helicopter with night vision headsets has been drafted in to allow the airborne surge to continue through the night.
They asked if I wanted to go in the helicopter and, if I could show them where I flew, maybe we could see the wreck.
Right there. We crashed about 2/3 of the way up that slope.
I hear the drone of the helicopter engines. And then I saw these lights coming up the valley.
Catch the lights!
I was trying to reflect their searchlight.
And we're done here!
The searchlights would flash on the trees between us and the crashed airplane.
Hey! Hey! Over here! Help!
Occasionally, one would flash just straight across where we're staying.
Here! Hey! Here!
We were yelling and shouting like crazy. Yeah, we were waving our arms, yelling and shouting, everything.
Hidden by the trees, Larry and Tommy remain invisible to the helicopter crew above.
I knew we should have found them by now. Why weren't they out running around waving their arms? Because if they're waving their arms, we can see them. You know, why can't we see them? I was certain that we were in the right canyon, but after enough times of not seeing what you're looking for, you begin to wonder.
The helicopter crew decides to search another part of the valley.
Tommy. Tommy. Wake up. The helicopter's come back. Wake up! Hey! Hey! Help! Hey, we're here! Over here! Help!
When they came back the second time, they were flying much slower.
Here!
The lights were bright when they would flash the lights across us because they were much, much closer.
Hey! Hey!
The first time, they had come so close and yet not found us. And that's when I remembered that I had a camera in my pocket. So I got out of the hole, walked over into kind of a clearing. I had 5 flashes left. And so I took my camera out and aimed at the helicopters as they were flying along their route. I flashed it as they came by. First low, next a bit up, next straight across from us. Next further behind us. But they didn't see us. I fired off the last of my flashes. The 5th flash. And the helicopter paused and started searching with the searchlight. And then they spotted the airplane.
It was fantastic. It was like hallelujah. It was the best present, the best thing that ever happened to me.
Justin has delivered on his promise to get his friends help.
I knew that we'd found them. I've done everything I could possibly do. And so, yeah, I was definitely relieved and happy.
The helicopter crew search for a clearing from which to pick up the 2 injured and exhausted men.
And all of a sudden, the helicopter bumped a couple times, like some turbulence. And I thought, wow, that was weird. And we just spun around and bam, into the side of the mountain.
It's the second time Justin Kirkbride has been in an air crash in 24 hours. As the night drags on, Tommy and Larry start to wonder what has happened to their friend.
We're sort of like, well, where'd the helicopter go? Why did it go away and where did it go?
What started as a routine sightseeing trip has turned into a fight for survival. As it gets to the coldest part of the night, the battle with constant pain and injury has left them with no fight left.
I started thinking about loved ones and my dogs and, you know, whether we were actually going to live through the night. I was tired, I was aching. I was just ready to close my eyes.
You can't. If you give up, you're done. And I started to have those thoughts. That's a real low. That was the lowest point for me.
Hello?
At that point, pretty soon thereafter, I started regularly yelling.
Hello?
I wanted to hear someone's voice.
Hello? 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 Hey!
All of a sudden, I heard someone yelling back, and someone answered. And that is a wonderful, wonderful sound. That is the best sound ever.
After nearly 19 hours fighting to survive, Tommy and Larry's ordeal is over.
I felt like I could, you know, just let myself go and, you know, surrender to the pains because I no longer really had to do anything. I was done with my night in the woods.
This here.
So I knew that we were going to make it at that point. We're basically saved. It was just the best thing ever.
Larry and Tommy are saved by a ground-based rescue team working independently from the helicopter crew. The team was dispatched from Durango the minute the plane had been reported missing. The rescuers were guided by the coordinates Justin had given them and followed his tracks in the snow. Under a mile away, Justin and the helicopter crew had survived their crash. The helicopter's main rotor had hit a tree, and it had fallen 70 feet to the ground. But all 8 passengers made it out completely unscathed. Larry and Tommy were airlifted to the hospital in Durango. They were reunited with Justin later that day. None of the 3 friends had any lasting injuries from the crash.
Any time that you crash an airplane out of the sky and walk away from it, there is some amount of luck involved.
A lot of that luck broke because of the common sense decisions that were made by those 2 guys. I would not be here if it weren't for them, no question.
It wouldn't have taken much for me to have killed Tommy and Larry. I could have been telling this story without a smile on my face, I guarantee it, without a lot of changes.